Hello everyone. Today we're going to finish looking at Fernando Sor's Opus 60 number 5. If you haven't learned to play this yet, I suggest doing that first. You can check out the first video of the playlist where I start to walk you through this step by step, learning to play it, up there in the corner, listed in the cards. Okay, so this second half is an A major. Let's take a look at the A major scale. Now, the first half was an A minor. This is an A major. This is what's called parallel major. Parallel major key is going from major to minor or minor to major, parallel keys with the same root, A being A, etc. There's also relative major and minor, and we'll discuss those in another video. So our first note here is our white note. Next we have our C sharp. That's the third note of the scale. So when I go to color it, what I need is a light blue. If you'll remember, the majors get a lighter color just because it's lighter in sound. And then A again, so that's another white. And then E, there's our yellow. So you see, this is kind of like the same thing from the last minor section. It's white, blue, and yellow. And next we're running into our 5. So here, color this low E, the fifth note. Here, we have our green, but this, just remember, this makes it a 5-7 chord because D is the 7th note over E. So if we just went through our scale starting on E, so I'm going to use the A major key signature here, but I'm going to start on E and just kind of count through it. E is 1, F sharp is 2, G sharp is 3, A is 4, B is 5, C sharp is 6, and D is 7. That's our 7. Right? But in this key we're coloring it green. So let's get the green color on there. Then our light blue again. And that's just a passing note. And then B, there's our violet note. So if you look, we have a 5-7 chord outline, and this is just a passing note here. And you'll hear it, it's part of the phrase. So this is played like a melody. So what we get is 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and So it makes sense for the melody, but you'll see the melody is outlining the chords. So when we play this E and that D, you'll notice the D really wants to pull us down to that C sharp, and then that C sharp kind of still wants to resolve to the B. So we get now the next part, we're still, in the bass we're outlining a 5. So let's color this yellow. And then we get our C sharp here, the light blue. Now you'll notice that this B, this is another kind of passing note. This is our 1 chord, and it's in second inversion, which means our yellow note is in the bass, but it's still white, blue, and yellow. So here's our white note, another violet note, and then another blue note. Okay, so that's just a passing note, and what we get is kind of another little melodic phrase outlining our 1 chord. And it leads into this, which is our 5. So if we listen to that phrase, has kind of a a feeling of being complete. Then next we move here. We still have the 5 in the bass, so we need our yellow. And then we also get the violet at the same time. Another yellow. I'm just going to color this one yellow as well for the sake of time. So we got our 2 yellows. Now here we have a D sharp. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment, but let's color this D here green so that we can see that what he's really getting at here is 5/7. That's our green note. This F sharp here is orange. Should be a little bit lighter orange. I think that'll be fine. So that's our orange. Now here I'm going to leave this note black. But what this note is if you pretend for a moment that you're in E major, it acts as kind of a leading tone because it wants to pull back to E. So we get E, D sharp, and then instead of going back up to E, he skips up to F sharp, then E, and then D natural, which is going to want to pull us down. So we're really borrowing from E major, and it creates quite a lot of tension. So we get that, and it resolves in the next phrase as. So if you listen to the chords as they're outlined, we get a 1 chord and a 5/7, 1 in second inversion, and another 5/7. And then it's going to resolve to that in the next phrase. So let's take a look at the next phrase here. From the next 4-measure phrase, we have the first 2 measures essentially repeating. It's not quite the same. The first measure is a little different. We have that A, and our C sharp, which is our blue, D, and E. And then our low E, which gives us the 5. So that first one is really outlining our white, blue, and yellow, the 1 chord. The next one is outlining 5/7, that low note being our low E. And we have our green as well as purple. The blue note is just a passing note on the way. Now we're leaving the G sharp out of the chord, but it's still implied because it has most of the notes. So when we hear it, it's kind of like it's as if we have a smaller phrase inside of this larger phrase, and this larger phrase is an answer to the last phrase. So we get right. So next what we have is our 5 in the bass, so we're going to color that yellow. And then we have our 3 again, so we're going to color that blue. Then we have our 5, color that yellow. All right, so here, this is yellow, blue, yellow. So it's kind of hinting at a 1, but really what it is we're taking these 2 notes here and kind of treating them as a passing back to our 5/7 here, right? So we get the green, which is the 4, then we get our violet, the 2, and then we get our red, the G sharp. That's a good red. So now what we have is a 5/7 outlined. And that 5/7, of course, has its tritone, the D and the G sharp, resolving to our 1. So we have the white, another white. Let's get this one's white as well as our blue. So overall, with that tricky third measure here, we have a 5/7, but these two notes are what are called non-chord tones, and they're just kind of leading us into the 5/7. So the C sharp and the E there, right? And you could also think of this as a cadence, the 1 in second inversion, like in the last video. Though the root from this one would be missing, but we have our C sharp and E leading into a B and a D, and we kind of get them in opposite order. So overall, alright, so let's take a look at the next phrase. On this next part, you'll see that we're actually going to be starting on the 5. So let's color our note head yellow. We're actually specifically starting on the 5/7. So if you'll see, we've got our red, violet, and green. Just a straight up spelling of our 5/7 chord. And then we get 1 in second inversion yet again, so that we're keeping the E in the bass to maintain tension. But then up here, what we get is our blue, our yellow, and our white. So it's the 1 chord up here. This is second inversion because the yellow's in the bass. So what we get is our 5/7. We get the same low note, but we just build a little more tension. Right, so you can put a little tension on that high A. And then we get another low E, our yellow, and it's tied all the way over to the next measure. And our red. So this is going to be an arpeggiation with just a passing. So the passing note is here. The F sharp, our orange note, seems to be one of the loneliest notes of this piece. Then our yellow and our green. So this orange, the F sharp, is just a passing note, but really what we have is our yellow, red, and green. Right, we're just missing the purple, but you know the chord is still implied. So what we get is, and of course that D is that note that wants to pull us down to the C sharp, our blue note here. And after that we get back up to green. And we're going to be getting the note that I left black, and I'm going to leave it black again because that's our tritone. But that note there is pulling us up to our E. And then what happens is that E, we arpeggiate down, we arpeggiate a 1. So we have our blue here. This is our yellow. This is our white. So this run here from the C sharp to the D to the D sharp to the E, that's just a chromatic line up to the E, and then we arpeggiate the 1 on the way down. So overall, All right, let's take a look at the next phrase. So in this next 4-measure phrase, what we have, starting off with the very same first 2 measures, so that's our 5/7, our 1 in second inversion, the 1/6/4. Then after that, we're actually going to be hitting the 5 in the bass again, but the chord above it is not exactly a 5/7. It's a borrowed one. So we're going to talk about what that means. But first, let's get this yellow color on the bass note. And our F sharp here, this is the orange. Glad to see you've joined us. This D sharp, we're going to leave it black. Our B, the violet. Our A, white. And F sharp again, orange. So here's how this works. We're actually borrowing from E major here. So if we look at the E major scale, we'll see that we're actually using B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. That's the 5/7. So we're going to call this a 5/7 of 5. And that 5/7 of 5 resolves, you guessed it, to the 5. And we are actually going to our 5/7 here. So we have our yellow, red, violet, then our yellow again. Of course, our green, which makes it the 7 chord. That green note is full of tension, and another violet here. So when we go here, this chord here resolves into our E7. So if we start, we're starting with 5/7, 1 in first inversion, then our 5/7 of 5, 5/7, and of course we're going to be resolving to 1 again after that. So let's take just one more listen. 5/7, 1 in second inversion, we have 5 of 5, 5/7. Alright, let's take a look at the next phrase. Okay, so the next 4-measure phrase is basically the same as the first phrase from the first section of this video, but there's only one small difference, and that's there in the 3rd measure. The bass note is an A instead of a low E. But it essentially has the same sound. So we have our 1, 5/7, 1, 5/7, of course with that borrowed D sharp. Let's take a look at the last phrase. So this last phrase, starting off with our 1 chord again, of course we have our white note there, and then we're actually going to be moving to our blue note, which should be expected for the 1 chord, and then a passing green note onto the yellow, which is our 5, the yellow. And that's tied over to this. And then we're going to a 4 chord. So we have our D here. That's our green, our 4. Another one. And then the next note is our orange, the F sharp. It's finally starting to show up in this piece a bit. And white, giving us 4. And then here, this of course is tied over, we have yellow, but this isn't going to be our 5, it's going to be our 1 in first inversion. We're just kind of, missing the root a little bit. Oops, wrong color. But this is what he's implying, and it has that sound that pulls us here to the 5/7. And that's the important movement here, is into the 5/7. And when I play this, I want you to really listen to what it sounds like, because that 1/6/4, it really does have what's called a predominant type of function. It leads us in to that 5/7. So here's our violet note. All right, so this has all the notes that we would expect to see in a 5/7, and then of course we're resolving to our 1 with this cadence. This is a perfect cadence. We have our white, yellow, and blue notes, closing this section off. So we start this phrase with the 1, of course with that passing note, and then the open D, and then our 1/6/4, but pulling us to our 5/7, and ultimately our 1 again. So if you listen to how he builds tension, that's fairly comfortable. Then the 4, that really has a strong effect. Right? And then our 1 and first. Okay, so don't forget to actually go through the video where you learn to play this piece. It's a lot of fun. You can click up there in the corner for the playlist, and also you can claim a pretty cool practice journal that I give out for free there. So definitely do not forget to subscribe. Check out the next video. Members of musicandguitarlessons.com get a awesome printout of this color music theory. Definitely do not forget to subscribe and like this video.